Hey there. I'm so glad you joined me once again. I'm very excited to see how things go. So our burglar hobbit, if you will, has stolen his way down the dark passage, met Smaug. Well, can't say he really met him, but he saw him and came out with a two-handled goblet. Pretty exciting, pretty exciting. So let's see how our adventure continues. The dwarves were still passing the cup from hand to hand and talking delightedly of the recovery of their treasure when suddenly a vast rumbling woke in the mountain underneath, as if it was an old volcano that had made up its mind to start eruptions once again. The door behind them was pulled nearly to and blocked from closing with a stone. But up the long tunnel came the dreadful echoes from far down in the depths of a bellowing and trampling that made the ground beneath them tremble. Then the dwarves forgot their joy and their confident boasts of a moment before and cowered down in fright. Smaug was still to be reckoned with. It does not do to leave a live dragon out of your calculations if you live near him. Dragons may not have much real use for all their wealth, but they know it to an ounce as a rule, especially after long possession, and Smaug was no exception. He had passed from an uneasy dream in which a warrior, altogether insignificant in size, but provided with a bitter sword and great courage, figured most unpleasantly, to a doze, and from a doze to a wide waking. There was a breath of strange air in his cave. Could there be a draught from that little hole? He had never felt quite happy about it, though it was small, and now he glared at it with suspicion and wondered why he had never blocked it up. Of late, he had half fancied that he had caught the dim echoes of a knocking sound from far above that came down through it into his lair. He stirred and stretched forth his neck to sniff. Then he missed the cup. Thieves, fire, murder. Such a thing had not happened since the first he came to the mountain. His rage passes description. The sort of rage that is only seen when rich folk that have more than they can enjoy suddenly lose something that they have long had but have never have before used or wanted. His fire belched forth, the hall smoked, and he shook the mountain roots. He thrust his head in vain at the little hole, and then, coiling his length together, roaring like thunder underground, he sped from his deep lair through its great door, out into the huge passages of the mountain palace, and up towards the front gate. To hunt the whole mountain till he had caught the thief and had torn and trampled him was his one thought. He issued from the gate. The waters rose at fierce whistling steam. And up he soared, blazing into the air, and settled on the mountaintop in a spout of green and scarlet flames. The dwarves heard the awful rumor of his flight, and they crouched against the walls of the grassy terrace, cringing under boulders, hoping somehow to escape the frightful eyes of the hunting dragon. There they would have all been killed if it had not been for Bilbo once again. "Quick, quick!" he gasped. "The door! The tunnel! It's no good here!" Roused by these words, they were just about to creep inside the tunnel when Bifur gave a cry. "My cousins! Bombur and Bofur! We have forgotten them! They are down in the valley!" "They will be slain, and all our ponies too, and all our stores lost," moaned the others. "We can do nothing." "Nonsense," said Thorin, recovering his dignity. "We cannot leave them. Get inside, Mr. Baggins and Balin. And you too, Feely and Keely. The dragon shan't have all of us. Now you others, where are the ropes? Be quick." Those were perhaps the worst moments they had been through yet. The horrible sounds of Smaug's anger were echoing the stony hollows far above. At any moment he might come blazing down or fly whirling round and find them there, near the perilous cliff's edge, hauling madly on the ropes. Up came Bofur, and still all was safe. Up came Bombur, puffing and blowing, while the ropes creaked, and still all was safe. Up came some tools and bundles of stores, and then danger was upon them. A whirring noise was heard. A red light touched the points of the standing rocks. The dragon came. They had barely time to fly back to the tunnel, pulling and dragging their bundles, when Smaug came hurtling from the north, licking the mountainsides with flame, beating his great wings with a noise like a roaring wind. His hot breath shriveled the grass before the door and drove in through the crack that they had left and scorched them as they lay hid. Flickering fires leaped up and black rock shadows danced. Then darkness fell as he passed again. The ponies screamed with terror, burst their ropes, galloped off wildly. The dragon swooped and turned to pursue them and was gone. "That'll be the end of our poor beasts," said Thorin. "Nothing can escape Smaug once he sees it. Here we are, and here we shall have to stay, unless anyone fancies tramping the long open miles back to the river with Smaug on watch." It was not a pleasant thought. They crept further down the tunnel, and there they lay and shivered though it was warm and stuffy, until dawn came pale through the crack of the door. Every now and again through the night they could hear the roar of the flying dragon grow and then pass and fade as he hunted round and round the mountainsides. He guessed from the ponies and from the traces of camps he had discovered that men had come up from the river and the lake and had scaled the mountainside from the valley where the ponies had been standing. But the door withstood his searching eye, and the little high-walled bay had kept out his fiercest flames. Long had he hunted in vain, till the dawn chilled his wrath, and he went back to his golden couch to sleep, to gather new strength. He would not forget or forgive the theft, not if 1,000 years turned him to smoldering stone. But he could afford to wait. Slow and silent, he crept back to his lair, and he half closed his eyes. When morning came, the terror of the dwarves grew less. They realized that the dangers of this kind were inevitable in dealing with such a guardian, and that it was no good giving up their quest yet. Nor could they get away just now, as Thorin had pointed out. Their ponies were lost or killed, and they would have to wait some time before Smaug relaxed his watch sufficiently for them to dare the long way on foot. Luckily, they had saved enough of their stores to last them still for some time. They debated long on what was to be done, but they could think of no way of getting rid of Smaug, which had always been a weak point in their plans, as Bilbo felt inclined to point out. Then, as is the nature of folk that are thoroughly perplexed, they began to grumble at the Hobbit, blaming him for what had at first so pleased them, for bringing away a cup and stirring up Smaug's wrath so soon. "What else are burglars supposed to do?" asked Bilbo angrily. "I was not engaged to kill dragons, that is warriors' work, but to steal treasure. I made the best beginning I could. Did you expect me to trot back with a whole horde of Thror on my back? If there's any grumbling to be done, I think I might have a say. You ought to have brought 500 burglars, not one. I am sure it reflects great credit on your grandfather, but you cannot pretend that you ever made this vast extent of his wealth clear to me. I should want hundreds of years to bring it all up if I was 50 times as big and Smaug as tame as a rabbit." After that, of course, the dwarves begged his pardon. "What then do you propose we should do, Mr. Baggins? What then do you propose we should do, Mr. Baggins?" asked Thorin politely. "I have no idea at the moment if you mean about removing the treasure. That obviously depends entirely on some new turn of luck and getting rid of Smaug. Getting rid of dragons is not at all in my line, but I will do my best to think about it. Personally, I have no hopes at all, and I wish I was safe back at home." "Never mind that for a moment. What are we to do now, today?" "Well, if you really want my advice, I should say we can do nothing but stay here where we are. By day, we can no doubt creep out safely enough to take the air. But perhaps for long one or two could be chosen to go back to the store by the river and replenish our supplies. But in the meanwhile, everyone ought to be well inside the tunnel by night. Now I will make you an offer. I have got my ring and will creep down this very noon. Then if ever Smaug ought to be napping, and see what he is up to. Perhaps something will turn up. Every worm has his weak spot, my father used to say, though I'm sure it was not from personal experience. Naturally, the dwarves accepted the offer eagerly. Already they'd come to respect little Bilbo. Now he had become the real leader of their adventure. He had begun to have ideas and plans of his own. When midday came, he got ready for another journey down into the mountain. He did not like it, of course. But it was now not so bad now he knew, more or less, what was in front of him. Had he known more about dragons and their wily ways, he might have been more frightened and less hopeful of catching this one napping. The sun was shining when he started, but it was dark as night in the tunnel. The light from the door, almost closed, soon faded as he went down. So silent was his going that smoke on a gentle wind could hardly have surpassed it. And he was inclined to feel a bit proud of himself as he drew near the lower door. There were only the faintest glow to be seen. Old Smaug is weary and asleep, he thought. He can't see me and he won't hear me. Cheer up, Bilbo. He had forgotten or had never heard about dragons' sense of smell. It was also an awkward fact that they can keep half an eye open watching while they sleep, if they are suspicious. Smaug certainly looked fast asleep, almost dead and dark, with scarcely a snore more than a whiff of unseen steam, when Bilbo peeped once more from the entrance. He was just about to step on the floor when he caught a sudden, thin, piercing red ray under the drooping lid of Smaug's left eye. He was only pretending to sleep. He was watching the tunnel entrance. Hurriedly, Bilbo stepped back and blessed the luck of the ring. Then Smaug spoke. I think that's a perfect place to stop. We'll hear what the Smaug has to say to Bilbo the next time we get together. Very exciting stuff. Can you imagine coming face to face and having a conversation with a dragon, fire-breathing dragon, and one who was very agitated, irritated, and angry that you stole one of his cups? Doesn't sound like a great place to be to me. I look forward to hearing how things go the next time we get together. And until then, have a beautiful day.